Welcome to Between Product and Partnerships, a podcast focused on bringing together product, partnership, and engineering leaders to discuss how to build, support, and scale SaaS ecosystems. This podcast is presented by Pandium, an integration platform for building native integrations.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for listening to our podcast again, Between Product and Partnerships, where we talk about the challenges and what it takes to build integrations, tech partnerships, and SaaS platforms. Today, we are so excited to have a great chat with Francesca Smedberg. Will you give us a little bit about your background, Francesca?
Yeah, thank you for having me here. It's super interesting. And I am a product leader, and I have been in product for quite many years, and it has been different steps that have brought me to product in terms of opportunities, luck, and also trying to solve a problem for my job and my customer. So I have 20 years experience in market research. And in 2009, I started at a startup company that was actually challenging market research, and that's where I come into product.
Awesome. Can you tell me a little bit about what you currently do today, the company that you're currently at, and what kind of projects you guys work on?
Yes, I just recently left Rillion as a VP of product, and I've been there about 3 years. And Rillion is an AP automation SaaS company. So mainly what we do is invoice management and which means that we manage all the invoice or capture all the data in any format that the invoice can come in. It can be paper, it can be invoicing, PDF, and then creating the workflows or the matching and then doing the reconciliation with the ERP. So mainly we have two products targeting both the SMB segment and the mid-large segment, and have all the integration to main integration to the ERP.
My bread and butter. But we could talk about that in a minute. If we go back to the beginning, I feel like you have a lot of experience in product, probably before product was really a thing, and maybe like when SaaS was just becoming a thing. Like the folks listening might not know, but SaaS as a concept and as a term did not always exist. So maybe you can share a little bit about your transition from doing market research, which actually feels like a very natural transition to me, into a product type role. But what did that look like? And at that first company, like what were you doing?
Yeah, this is a good question. And actually, I think that when I talk to people, I feel I came to product from a different background, but actually it's very common. I realized that many people have come to product from different roads. And as I was saying, I started at a startup in 2009, and I started as an analyst. So I was actually using the product that we were building every day. And the product we were building was to challenge market research. So it was like, instead of asking question about new product launch, like, oh, what is your overall impression? Would you buy this product? We create a virtual environment to test different strategy. And we started with a virtual shelf. We added the e-com 3D store, and we also digitalized the whole process. We built the survey engine, the questionnaire that replaced Word, the analytics. And here I was actually a user. So I was actually focusing on delivering project to customer, especially pricing, assortment studies, and also like I was involved in many of our innovation projects. So testing new things and see if we could create new products. And that's why I worked super close with the tech team. And actually I was doing product management work without knowing that it was product management. And often it was really about solving my problems because we were few people, we were growing fast, and I had to work more efficiently. So it was about asking tech solutions so that I could solve problems I had, and also to be able to deliver like the best insight to our customer that were looking to launch product, optimize their pricing strategy. So during that journey, I had different roles. I started, as I said, as an analyst. Then I led the marketing science team, insight and digital producer team. And then the last 5 years, I was actually leading the tech team and forming our product team. And so I think it was super good, like mix to develop as a product leader, having the hands-on product management work, but also having a lot of experience from other departments, and then have a lot of insights, both in qualitative and quantitative knowledge that helps a lot doing product work, segmentation, and so on.
Yeah, you have like that perfect kind of background for a product manager, like having the analytical mindset and then also some customer facing kind of commercial aspect to the job. I have like such a soft spot for customer facing folks moving into product. I am one of those people myself. I've seen it
Yeah.
work at a lot of companies versus the inverse. Like I do think it's challenging to start at a product role if like you're not used to talking to the user.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what your thoughts are. Like you've grown a lot of teams. Um, what do you? And this is maybe like a big question, but what do you see as trends that are happening in product management, like as a position, potentially from the beginning of your career to
Mhm.
now? And I ask this again under the guise of like seeing product being more of a customer facing type of
Yeah.
problem solving role versus like an ideating type of role in recent years. But maybe that's we work primarily with SaaS companies, growing SaaS companies, not like great big huge
Yeah.
enterprises, so it might be different in different places. I'm just curious what your kind of thoughts are.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there is still a mix a little bit of what product manager is, and there's been product owners or different roles and so on in what like actually um, it is. But I think like if we look at the transition about what product management is and what good product management, the main difference I see today compared to like 10 years ago is that it's very much clearer what good product management is, and there is so much knowledge that is not like just theory but practical knowledge, where you talk about it not just from the product community but much broader, like from company perspective. And this like helps a lot to improve as a product manager or a product leader in terms of a company. So I think like the first when I start learning about product management or agile, it was a lot more focused on delivery, like a lot of information like how do you deliver in a good way. So continuous delivery and in small chunks and so on. And while in the past years has come a lot of focus more on the discovery part, which I think that it becomes even a better fit coming with the market research background to really take more focus on that part of understanding what are the problems and iterating the solution. So right now, I think it's a very good because you have the both perspective in a very good way. And in that, I think the product manager role has changed in terms of being more commercially focused, or at least for me in the organization I built to have that focus, and then having engineering more empowered and like connect engineering that actually they can know the technical part and not necessarily the PM needs to be very deep on technology because you have a big team that can help you. So I find that in this sense, I see a difference.
It's a really good point, and one that I hadn't really thought about, which is that back 15 plus years ago, building software was more novel, right? It was
Yeah.
newer, like figuring out how to get the software to do the thing you wanted it to do was so much of the hurdle. And I think that like waterfall obviously was a part of that, but to your point, like the delivery aspect, like just can we build the thing? Like can we do it? Not can anybody do it or like what's the right way to do it, but like can technology do the thing we want it to do was such a large question versus
Right.
today where that's like almost immaterial. It's more about like what's the right way to do it, what's the best way to do it, but not like
Yeah.
I have to go figure out a different new database to make this function. Like that stuff is just baked in. And we also have so much more technology to look at when it comes to like best in breed. Like there's things you can model stuff after and there's patterns that are just good software development. So it's less important to like think about that aspect of it versus the more maybe like cerebral problem solving
Yeah.
part of it, which I think is really interesting. And
Yeah.
that leads into something else. Oh, go ahead.
And that is good point, the reflection that to do.
Yeah, it's like I forget, right? Like being in tech for so long, I forget what it used to be like versus now. Things are just so fast. Um, and I think it also speaks to the difference between measuring like feature volume almost, like how much stuff are you releasing versus the outcomes
Yeah.
and the value that you're getting. And I was actually just having a conversation right before this meeting with someone about like t-shirt sizing and like value effort and how it's like that has transitions over time as well. But I'm curious if you when you've joined organizations, like how do you think about transitioning from maybe just like how much work are you putting out to what is the value of this work, and like that sort of idea of pragmatism I think feeds into that. But I'm curious about, it sounds like you've seen it all, sort of what your journey has been like.
Yeah, now that's a good question. I think it's was very different in a way in the two companies. But if I start like thinking about Relion, where we really did the transition from being very feature focused to more go towards the being outcome focused. And Relion, just to give you some perspective and context, is a very old company. It was founded in the 90s. So you can imagine how much it has happened since then. And so it's a result of different mergers, acquisitions. So it's a quite complex platform. And I think when I came in, we were really struggling to be very reactive, which is not as uncommon, I think, in B2B, especially SaaS. And we wanted to really try to make more impact with the work we were doing, because the team was really struggling to decide which direction taking and making trade-offs. So they were being pulled in so many different directions, and the actual result didn't come as big, and also giving some more room to be able to bring innovation in. And I think that there it was not like a big move in terms of driving the change and you get it. It was a mix of changing and try to understand, even if things that I've done before, it's not always that the same exact thing work. So you have to test it and be very flexible in terms of trying things small and see, okay, but this worked quite well. Can we do it a little bit better? And if I have to think like where I put my focus, it was a lot about creating focus, so product strategy. And before getting there, still trying to think, okay, even if we got this request or if any stakeholder has pushed it, we need to understand why we do it and what we want to achieve. Even if you don't have the perfect strategy, you can still like retrospectively build it so that it helps you forward to make trade-offs. And also like organization in terms of how do we work together, engineering, product, and the other teams. So we really went from having two very big team and instead have a smaller cross-functional team that had very clear mission. And I think like already focusing a team in a mission that is connected with a business goal, and then letting the team figure it out, what can we drive from the product to actually come there, is already a good sign. And I think when you start, like what I tried to do there was, it's hard, I think, to be honest, like putting real good outcomes that are measurable. Even if you have done it, it's probably one of the hardest thing to do it, because normally you have a lot of uncertainty. So so I really tried to, okay, it's better to have a goal that is good enough that we can learn, that help us to learn, and then we can make it better when we know more. And I think that's like, to give you an example of a very specific situation where it was perfect to show the organization like why outcome is stronger than a feature, because this is not something that is so easy normally to have in a conversation with the sales. They just want the feature to sell. So in this case, we were doing an initiative to drive our, the target was a certain level of MRR. So driving the customer size, and our goal, strategic goal, was that, and we identified exactly what we wanted to do. And a side effect, or a good side effect, was that on top, what the initiative we found on top of driving that would also benefit support efficiency. So when we start seeing that, the support got super interested because they saw their agenda in terms of looking, oh, this is a good opportunity for that. So that created a little bit of not like the team being pulled toward that. And that was really good to have an outcome rather than a feature, because then we could get back, okay, this could be more important if we look at from a company perspective. But then we need to really make that decision super clear that if this is the ultimate goal, which will be supporting the support organization to be more efficient, we can optimize toward that. But then we cannot do both at the same time. And so I think that was a very concrete, relatively simple example, which can help more the organization to see, okay, what does it really mean to be outcome driven rather than feature driven?
Yeah, that's a great example. And I wonder how, if you've run into any challenges kind of threading that needle with the engineering teams. Because I know in my own personal experience, engineers love to build stuff, right? Like they love to build. And I think in my personal opinion, a great engineer is the engineer that tries to solve the problem with like the least amount of building, like the least amount of building that works, right? And creates the value and achieves the outcome. But sometimes folks don't want to go there immediately, right? Like it's more fun to like build your own programming language than it is to like just use the off-the-shelf library or something to what you described. Like maybe you don't need the feature, maybe it's internal tooling that actually needs to be done. And I think internal tooling is like the least sexy part of building anything. Like just ask anyone who's ever had to do like a billing integration or a subscription management integration internally. Like it is the worst. Like you always give it to the intern, right? So I'm curious, like if you've run into any friction with that mindset, and especially with having teams from multiple companies coming in, which is, bringing all those together is also a challenge. So yeah, what would you tell our listeners who are maybe running into some of those challenges?
I think it's always like about change, trying to make space also for this different opinion and try to make the team understand like the impact they can have. So like, oh, this is what we want to reach, communicate, maybe listening to this frustration. So being curious when you meet this frustration and try to see, okay, can we find another way to actually make you do what you think it's really fun. So this is a more like general, not being frustrated by the situation, because normally if you are going to drive a change, this will be more likely people do not want to change. So being curious, trying to help the organization, show example of things that works. But on the other side, I think when you need to make a change, especially if you have a certain time that is stretched, which normally is the case because everybody wants to evolve fast. I think it's a lot about also mixing people. Maybe some people that have done it before that understand really what this is about, and some people that have maybe a lot of knowledge of certain part of the product. So create a mix of perspective and getting really the engineering to work close and with product manager and designer, so that they feel they also have a word in saying how do we build and how do we bring this forward. So I think involving engineering very close and in the customer maybe even, because then they can have this creativity or this way where they can think they are probably the best person to find this really innovative solution. So trying to, without explaining too much or trying to convince them, just put them in a situation where actually they will find a good way to solve a problem, but in a slightly other way.
Yeah, I think it reminds me of how being a product manager or even a product owner in some places, like there's like so much interpersonal stuff that goes into that, especially when you're trying to, as you said, like make a change within an org or like sort of massage an organization into moving in a certain direction. I always tell folks, we talk to a lot of partnership folks, right? And they're on the commercial side of the house, but oftentimes they have engineering requirements to get their job done. And I always tell folks, I'm like, go over to product engineering and like find your friend. Like there will be somebody there that like really empathizes with the problems that you're having or like knows the inside baseball. And like, you're not asking them to do anything they shouldn't be doing, but like those relationships can be so valuable when it comes to getting your job done, right? And I was actually going to ask you, like, how, when you are bringing all of these teams together, how have you thought about like mixing people up? And I've worked in places where it's like you have the front end team, the back end team, the platform team, and those people like basically just stay in those teams forever. And I feel like that can be, it can become very caustic. Not only is it not great for like obviously silos and specialization, but also like there could be a lot of like, competition's not the right word. It just takes, people start to argue
I
about
think
stuff.
it's a kind of competition in a way.
Yeah, a little bit. It's like, but it's your fault. No, it's this team, this team, this team.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, did you cycle people through these departments or through these teams? Like, how did you have a systemic way of doing that, or did you just kind of play it by ear?
Yeah, good question. I think I had this dynamics in both companies in a different ways. So at William, we like it was divided really in product teams in terms for one, the SMB segment and the mid-large segment. So there, what we did together with engineering was to link it to the product strategy. So to take our like bets and define like goals that we want to achieve, and then form our structure given those goals that we wanted to achieve. And I think that worked very well because it got, and the team got to write the mission like with their words and to really be a part of it from start. So I think that was that worked very well, and there we mixed the like front end, back end, or data if it was AI team. So I wouldn't say they were completely independent because still our infrastructure didn't allow for it, but as independent as we could be. And I think that worked very well because everybody had a very clear focus on what we are trying to achieve and why, what my team will be contributing to both the customer and the business. And before it was a lot of challenges actually in not being able to deliver. It was more because people were stuck in their word, as you mentioned, silos, but also like more, you tend to kind of blame people. Oh, but they didn't tell it to us. And instead, if you just have to solve the problem, then you start talking to each other and figuring it out. So that was a little bit of the mind shift that trying to get people to not think too much in terms of where the problems are, why things are working, but what can I do to actually make things moving. And I think to have this type of team structure helped, and it was not random because it was very focused on the product strategy, and also try to create this mix between people that have a lot of knowledge in the product and on the other side new people that could bring this new perspective. So that combination worked quite well. And then I mean sometimes you have also to adjust because it's hard to, I think you shouldn't be too much in love with your definition of teams because it's hard to get it all right. So being also letting the people bringing up what works well, what is the challenge, and see if you need to adjust. And instead, in the other team, it was different things in terms that we went to being very small team. So we were 5 people, many like in the beginning, and then we grow up to 20. And there was more about, okay, how do we work when we are so few people? There were things that were naturally like good product practice, but we didn't have to put a lot of effort. It was easy to collaborate. We had to work together tight because we were very few people. But then it was also a little bit more chaotic. We didn't really have a lot of processes. And so there was about more kind of creating a good structure to be able to grow. And without putting too much, because we did it a little bit wrong, where we went and we went all in Agile and Scrum, and suddenly we lost like our focus on what we're trying to achieve. So we over processed when we tried to grow, and actually that didn't really help us. So we had to little bit recalibrate and think, okay, we need some more structure because we cannot grow in this way, but it doesn't, like, the process itself shouldn't be our goal. So kind of being very transparent in how could we do that. And there also we created a mix of people, like instead of keeping all the 5 developer in the same team, kind of divided them. And there was 2 things that were super important to really nail the being able to scale. And one was about the knowledge bottlenecks, because when you are so few people, all people have a lot of knowledge, and it also, so it creates this kind of, all decision goes through certain people, and it's easy if you are a few people. But when we started to scale, we needed to find out first, getting the possibility to, for these people to actually not directly work in initiative, but have time to onboard other and help them, but also to other people to have to learn how to make a decision, because we are lazy people. So if I know that you're really good and you know a lot, then I would think, oh, but if you take the decision, it's a lot better. So it was about creating like helping the team to understand how could make decision, and maybe let's pretend that this person is sick. So if you were here, like, how would we do, and what is the information we need? And also learn that making decision fast is actually better than not making them, and being cautious if it's a non-reversible decision, but otherwise making sure that, like, we can make a decision, and it's better than actually not doing it and wait for somebody.
Oh my God, I agree with that so much. I think that's been like from myself personally, like a guiding light in managing teams forever, is like trying to create this like psychological safety, which is getting like very fluffy, but like, I'd rather you make a decision if you feel like you're capable of doing that, and we'll just clean it up if we have to. Like, if you make the wrong choice, we will figure it out, versus not feeling empowered or feeling afraid of doing something. And like, if you hire smart people, or if you have good teams, they're not going to like YOLO and like go crazy and do something really destructive. Like, you trust the instincts, right, of these folks. But I do think like instilling that feeling of like, if you mess something up, I'm doing air quotes for our listeners, like, I will not be mad. We as an organization will not be mad. Like, we'd rather just give it a shot. And I think that is a really like beautiful sort of culture, which I don't love that word, but like culture to create within an organization. And it also, it drives innovation, it drives speed, and I think it creates a lot of empathy. When we were talking about those silos, it's like, it's not about like, oh, the front end team didn't do the thing they were supposed to do and that's why it's broken. It's like, oh, like, we made a mistake, or somebody made a mistake, who knows, but like, what are we going to do to fix that? And I think modern software companies are better at that, potentially. Maybe also, again, going back to the fact that like, there doesn't need to be as much specialization as there did 20 years ago, right? Like, we don't have just one DBA anymore. Like, everyone works on the database, and like, sure, there's people that are specialized in some things, but it's not like it was where like you have to be super narrow because the tech is just really hard and nobody knows how it works. And I love to see that.
There as well, like, it is a lot about if you make the decision, you may learn something that maybe it was the only way to learn that it was not the right decision to just do something. So I think that kind of understanding that it's better to do it than not doing it.
Well, yeah, and it's also like sort of process hardening by fire, right? Like, if like your brand new engineer is able to like take down prod on their like second day, like, that's not their fault. Like, somebody, like, a bunch of things have failed, right? At that point, if that was able to happen. And like, that's not to say that outages and stuff don't happen and like feature releases don't go poorly, even in the best cases. And people do make mistakes. But I do think looking at it from the lens of like, how can we make sure that type of thing does not happen again, is also super valuable. Like, and that doesn't happen if you don't, if every production push is flawless forever, like, you're not building anything exciting, in my opinion. Like, I think you don't want it to be like Wild West, but I think like things do happen, and I think that is a part of learning, to your point, and helping the team understand that like that is a part of learning, especially if you have junior folks who are nervous,
Mm.
you know, understandably. Before we run out of time, I did want to ask a question though about current product folks or folks that are like looking to get into product or up level their skills. What would you say should be someone's focus? Let's say they're like they want to move into product from another part of the org. Like,
Mm.
what are the skills that you think they should focus on to make them a great candidate and make their lives easier when they get that job?
Good question. I think like if you have not worked in product, you have good chance if you have a commercial work, a data work to get in product and do a good job. So I really would start with very the good books in terms of product manager. I like to read book. Maybe people do not like it, but like Marty Kagan or Teresa Torres, because I think for me, the biggest shift when I change from project management to product is that it's different. You have to deal with something where it's more uncertain and understand what is the actual work. Why don't you know exactly when thing can be ready? And you cannot measure exactly everything. So I think really getting a good ground is a good start, because then you have a foundation. Then that may be a little bit theoretical in certain way, and the context that you meet will not be maybe always as described in the books, but it gives you a good hint of how good looks like. And then I will really focus in knowledge. There is a lot on a LinkedIn podcast, and try to find a little bit more concrete examples that can give you the depth. And then depending on how you think you can transition, often it's easier to get in the company, and within that company transition to product than finding a new job, especially now. Compared to a few years ago, I think that has been a little bit more challenging, the context. So it's harder for junior people, but I mean, there are possibility. And then like find good, there are so many good product people sharing a lot of conference that are free. So try to get a little bit of this hands-on experience, because at the end, the principle of product are not super complex. It's about collaborating, working together, data driven, but then do it in practice. It's not always as easy as it sounds in principle. So I think the other thing that I found super important, even at like with a lot of experience, is about a peer relationship. Like get somebody maybe that had done that transition. And if you don't know somebody, ask somebody that knows somebody and ask for their experience, because I think like in this peer relationship, you can actually learn this more hands-on experience much faster than you can do it in your own.
I think that's great advice. And my experience has been that a lot of folks are like want to help. Like most
Yeah.
folks, especially if you're like really kind of entry level or junior in a position or looking try to get your first big promotion or second big promotion, like everyone has had to do that. Everyone that is in those jobs that you want has likely had to do a very similar thing to what you've done, and will be willing to share the knowledge. And it kind of goes back to saying like walk over to, the engineering team and find your friend, like go buy them a coffee, ask them to leave the office, like ask that PM at your company to like grab lunch and just have the conversation, right? I think it's super important. And I fully agree with you too on like find the company you want to be at and get into that company. Maybe not at like an entry level job you hate, but like, find your way
Something that
into
you like.
something that you like and that you can do. Because I think there's always positions for folks that are smart and curious and want to solve a hard problem for a company, right? Whether that's a product management role or something else within an organization, but like there's so much value in those people that care deeply about the problem you're looking to solve. So this has been super fun. I wish we could talk forever. I could totally do it, but we're going to we're going to have to stop here, I think. Any final words for our audience?
Oh, no, I think you should start working product. I would definitely keep in product. It's a really fantastic profession. And the best thing is that you learn, and it's probably true in across many positions, but being able to be so close to new technique and actually seeing things that just a few months before you couldn't do, that you can actually do. It's very dynamic and very complete in terms of both different pricing strategy, communication, tax. So I really recommend to look for a career in product.
Look at that. Love it. We have a product evangelist.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much again. This was really fun. To our listeners and watchers, if you want more information about integrations, product management, partnerships, all that good stuff, check out pandeep.com. We've got our blog. We've got obviously this podcast series. We have a bunch of worksheets, all kinds of fun stuff. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn if you're listening. I'm sure you can find Francesca on LinkedIn as well. Again, really fun chatting with you. And to the folks listening, we will see you out there. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed our content, subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up. For more content on tech partnerships, integrations, and APIs, check out our articles, ebooks, and other resources in the description or visit Pandium's website.